Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Welcome back to the Gay Buddhist Fellowship. Before we hear from our speaker, our custom is to introduce ourselves by first name. I'll begin, and I also just suggest that you take a breath before saying your name so we can really take it in. My name is Michael.
I'm Adam. My name is Chris.
Today I'm Carl.
I'm Alex.
Gary.
I'm Baruch.
My name is Mark.
I'm Jerry. Silas.
Patrick.
Lee.
Jose. I'm Ryan.
Peter.
Jim.
I'm all black.
I'm Cal.
I'm Amos.
Larry.
My name is Gal.
I'm Jim.
I'm Jack.
I'm Brad. James.
I'm Henry.
I'm Eric.
I'm Justin.
Michael.
John.
My name is Jerry.
My name is Roy.
David. I'm Tom.
My name is Jerry.
My name is Roberto. My name is Kenny.
My name is Harley.
Okay, thank you. Our speaker today is Eugene Cash. Eugene is a spirit rock teacher and the founding teacher since 1992 of San Francisco Insight. Eugene co-founded the Dedicated Practitioners Program for senior students at Spirit Rock. Currently, he co-leads the Community Dharma Leaders Program training people from around the world to teach mindfulness in their respective communities. In addition, Eugene teaches the Diamond Approach. He is passionate about teaching awareness, inquiry, and waking up in daily life. Welcome, Eugene.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Please tell me or wave at me if I talk too quietly, because I tend to talk quietly sometimes. I'm used to being mic'd. So let me know. And I'd like to have a little involvement with you today, if that's okay. Meaning, to begin with, we're going to vote on what's going to happen today. Because I have a few options. I brought a talk. I can do a talk. I'm happy to do a talk. I'm also happy just to talk to you, because I always find that really interesting, like what's going on, or what's interesting, or what's difficult, or what's, phenomenal, or what's, horrible, or what really would be vital or helpful or interesting about practice, Dharma, Buddha, whatever, that would be, so I'm happy to do that. And instead of a talk, or I'm also happy to do, people reminded me that last time I was here, we made up a talk together, which I always like to do also, because I like the involvement of people relating to. And if I do that, it means then, if we do that, it means I'll ask you for some topics you want to hear about. Like if you came and you got the talk you wanted to hear, what would that be about? And I'll write down a bunch of topics, and then I'll give a talk based on your topics. So we have three options. Of course, it'll take us 45 minutes to figure out which one to do. But let's see if, okay, how many people would like to hear the talk? Okay.
What's the talk about?
Yeah, but that's people always ask that. No, I don't do that. You either want to talk or not, but whatever it is. So, okay, how many people would like to just do some questions and dialogue and do that? That's like nobody. Okay. And then how many people would like to make up a talk together? That wins. Okay. Believe me, I'll bring in some of the talk also. So let's hear some topics. What, if you got the talk you wanted, what would I be talking about? Please.
So this was inspired by the lead article in the Times Review section today. So the question is, in Buddhist terms, how much time and attention should one devote to meditation, learning Buddhist practices, and so forth, in lay lives that are already overfilled with stuff?
Great question. Okay. Given busy lives. Okay. Please.
Mindfulness. I'd like to hear about that.
Me too. I'd like to hear a little less about it. Please.
Playing with practice rather than working at it.
Great. Rather than working. Okay.
I was interested in the concept of how much one is to fix the stuff out there into action versus, the meditation, and they talk about Buddhists meditating, creating more change, and then so that
Fix the stuff out there, meaning
in other words,
fix the world?
Yeah, in other words, that balance between meditation and activism.
Okay, great, good. Okay.
Staying with what is, perhaps is, instead of running away from it, perhaps is a motivation to get to what we want.
Staying with what is to achieve our desired goal. Is that okay? Please.
Identity.
Let me try and find one.
The challenges of remembering the practice and the Dharma when we are overwhelmed with life's traumas and stuff that triggers all of our old shit.
Okay, there was something else. Yeah, it was the first one about being busy. Busy life. So the challenges. Good question. Yeah.
How has your work with the diamond approach influenced your own practice, and how is that related to the unconditioned self?
Okay. My own practice. Okay, we have enough for about 3 hours now. The unconditioned. Okay, good. Okay, so give me a second. See if I can read my writing. Okay. So let's start with this first question about the busy lives. Who asked that? Yeah, so, about, and again, give me what you said, because I can't read a little bit of what I wrote. about meditation, how much to do meditation and practice given our busy lives and...
Yeah, time and attention.
Great.
Given that we're already stuffing all this stuff in, and
right.
so it's both consistent with Buddhism and contradictory to Buddhism
right.
to put in more stuff.
Right. Well, I don't know that it's contradictory to Buddhism to put in more stuff,
Okay.
because, again, part of what can happen is we start to practice, right? We want to learn how to practice, and it takes some doing, and it takes some information, right? Like it's good to get some idea, what are the teachings, what are the instructions, what's the form, what's the structures that help us start to pay attention to what's here. And then, and so like this is one of the supports for that, right? We come and we meet together as Sangha, we do practice together, we sit together, we learn more about it by doing it, right? And then there's any step of maturation in any learning or any art or any skill, there's development that happens. And so the basic, if I'm learning how to play the piano right, it's the same thing, right? I'm learning what are the keys, where do I put my hands, how do I do it, and I have to do it. Oh, they're giving me a lot of information, but I practice, and then it becomes easier, right? Because I've put some time in. So I don't have to think about all those things. And then they give you more information, whatever the skill is, carpentry or electronics or meditation. And so, and one of the things you'll notice about anybody who's spent some time with an art or a skill or a practice is they aren't doing much at a certain point, even though they're doing a lot if you're just getting there. And so part of what happens with meditation is the same. Meaning, and really where I'm going is part of the maturation of practice is to get here, to learn how to pay attention to what's happening right now. Like, and everybody aware right now? Right? Everybody's aware, right? The awareness is happening like that. And to start to relax into what's already here, happening like that. You're aware of what I'm saying, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, you're liking, not liking, excited, not excited, warm, cool, all this stuff is being known. And so meditation is starting to align us with something that's already functioning and make it a little more known, the awareness itself, right? And the awareness, we don't. Who's doing the awareness? Here's a better way I can say it. Stop being aware right now, all of you. Now listen to me. I'm the guest speaker, and you have to do what I say. So stop being aware right now. Is that possible? So that starts to tell us something about what's happening, which is we're not doing the awareness. It's part of what's here. We're starting to come into alignment with what's already here. And as we come into this Buddhist alignment, because this is one of the things the Buddha pointed at, was the awareness of body, heart, mind, right? Was, you don't have to do anything. And so when we start to see that, when that starts to live in us, and it's slow, it's like any art. You don't become you're not playing Bach the second day, right? You start the piano. But slowly over time, it becomes part of you. Or you realize, what's being pointed at in any instruction is doable right here. Right here. And I'm pointing at all of us. And then, as it becomes known a little more, relaxed a little more, we start to erase the line between meditation and non-meditation. And that's a really, 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 this is Eugene's shtick these days, okay? This is my big deal. Like, this is what I'm interested in. Like, we want to meditate, but like this is a beautiful statue, right? But this is not a human being, right? The human beingness is alive. And so the meditation doesn't just sit, we're not just going to sit here forever. I mean, you can, and there's a certain value to sitting long periods of time, but we're all going to get up and go out and get in a car or take a walk or meet somebody or have a good time or have a bad time or have whatever. Your awareness will be with you the whole time. So part of the teaching is a training to be aware and awake consistently. And so the busyness gets less, it becomes less of a problem. And there is definitely great value in non-busyness. And then there's also, you're going to be aware even if you're busy. And so play with that. Somebody asked about playing and practice, not work. Who asked about that? Yeah, thank you. Because that's a really important part of what it means to begin to erase the line between meditation and non-meditation. Play with it. Fool around. Be a bad meditator when you're in the safe way. Meaning, meditate when you're in the safe way. Don't sit like this in safe way. They don't like that. But while you walk, see, and remember, one thing great about the Buddha, he talked about meditation, sitting, standing, walking, lying down, and in all intermediary, that's not the right word, in all the in-between phases of sitting, standing, lying, walking, lying down. To start to be aware and mindful in all of that, because we're already aware. And so it's starting to rest or relax into something that's already here. It's one of the beautiful things about practice is we're not trying to create a different Eugene, thank God, because that's been a drag anyways, trying to create a different anything, right? You ever have anybody try to change you because you'll be better if you become like this or like that or like something? Doesn't work. But you can start to relax into the depth of what's here that the Buddha pointed at. Because he was pointed at this human experience, this experience. And so start to play with, oh yeah, the busyness, it sucks. But stay aware of your attitude and your relationship to busyness. And this is right out of the text. There's two main things that are going to happen. You're either going to have three things that will happen. Let me try to be a little bit accurate. There's either you're going to be aversive to the busyness, or you're going to love the busyness sometimes, or you're not even going to be aware of busyness. One of those three things will happen. Being aware of the aversion or the liking, the grasping, you want to be aware of that also, because then you have freedom whether you're going to go with the busyness, not go, or whether you're going to go with your aversion or your uptightness or your drag or your loving or your whatever it is, right? We start to see when the awareness starts to become strong, and you can check this out right now, and I like to encourage this because if I'm wrong, I want to know. Notice what you're aware of right now, whatever it is. And notice if there's a reaction, a response to whatever you're aware of. Whether you like it or not like it or want it or don't want it or it's great or it's not or it's okay or it's get rid of it. Just notice. And it can be very subtle, that's okay. But you can start to notice the experience and the response to the experience that happens, just like that for all of us. And then notice the awareness is not bound to what you're aware of. Right? Check it out. The awareness is not bound to what you're aware of. And maybe I'm wrong about this, but so far, and believe me, I'm looking, I'm happy to keep looking. I keep looking and I see, the awareness is totally open. It knows everything without me doing anything. But it's not bound to what's being known. It's just what's being known. The flowers, the Buddha, the people, the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations, the ideas, the beliefs, the wanting, the not wanting. Right? And the other thing that happens is we start to look at what we're aware of, and the fact that the awareness might not be bound to it is, where's the awareness itself? What is that? Right? And it's not great. You can think about that, but look experientially. That's the key doorway that the Buddha pointed at. The human experience is a doorway for awakening, for freedom, for whatever word we want to use, liberation, or the sure heart's release is one of the ways it's put in the text. That this experience here, that's ours, which of course is not even ours, but that's another teaching, is the doorway to freedom. And notice what happens, especially with what I'm saying. You don't have to like it, but be aware of your not liking it. Be aware that, you're thinking about it. You're thinking, this is crap. I wanted to hear about whatever, compassion or something. And you can start to be aware of whatever's here. And that awareness is one of the doorways to showing us the nature of reality. So is that okay? So, so we're talking about playing with practice. I hope I'm weaving that in a little bit, and playing with the busyness and the whole idea of, what is life? Right? We're all alive for this very short time, right? And relatively, 20, 60, 80, 100 years, 120. Now they're telling me that it's going to be normal that people live to 120. I'm like, hey. I'm happy for a little while longer, but I don't need 120. But there is this question that comes up about Buddhism and about the fact that the Buddha pointed at the sure heart's release. And the sure heart's release is not just about the mind, it's about kindness and care and connectedness and love and compassion. And so the question is, what does it mean to fix the world? Because suffering is what the Buddha pointed at. He said, what I teach is paradoxical. I want to be accurate. He didn't say, that's Eugene's interpretation. He did. He started with a paradoxical teaching. He said, I teach suffering and the end of suffering. Now that's, everybody, at least for me, I go, what? Are you kidding? The end of suffering? Is that for real? What is that? He's being Buddha or something. I'll denigrate it, but in fact, that's what he pointed at, was this paradox, which is hard for the mind to believe. And paradox always means the mind doesn't understand, right? Because it's not an intellectual, A, B, C, D, O, E, F, G. No, that's not what paradox points at, the nature of reality that is not knowable just by thinking it through. It's a experience. It's an aha experience. It's a discovery experience. When we get a paradox, it's like we understand something that seemed not understandable or contradictory. And that is part of the nature of reality. It has paradoxical components to it. All of reality, as far as I can tell, which is a little what I was going to talk about. So I'll read you something. I think I'll read you something. I thought I would. Oh, here. Paradox. This is from Dogen, Zen Master Dogen. He said, realization, neither general nor specific. Realization, neither general nor specific, is effort without desire. Realization, neither general nor specific, is effort without desire. Vast sky, transparent throughout, a bird flies like a bird. Clear water, all the way to the bottom, a fish swims like a fish. Now that's a great teaching, and it's a paradoxical teaching. It's not an easy teaching just to understand with our minds, but to sit with, feel it, to sense, and notice what happens as you live with the teaching. Because the living with the Buddha's teachings is where the fruit of the Buddha's teachings come from. And it's the same with Dogen, who says realization neither general nor specific. Because right there, he's just killing our mind, right? What the hell does that mean? It's neither general nor specific. It's not either one, right? Is effort without desire. What the hell is that? What is effort without? How do you make effort without wanting to make some effort, right? But he's pointing at something that's beyond our usual sense of self. And that is also what the Buddha pointed at. The sense of self is one of the paradoxes that's pointed at in Buddhist teaching. And what I really love about the Buddha is, and that's often misinterpreted as the teaching of no self. That is not the teaching. That's a bad translation. The teaching is about self and not self. And that's a much more helpful way to begin to conceptualize what he was pointing at, because he had a lot of respect for the sense of self. He just also saw, people believe that's the end of the story of who and what is sitting in their seat, which is their sense of self. And that's, of course, part of the story. Eugene, believe me, my parents told me almost immediately, that's Eugene, right? This kid, Eugene. And you become Eugene, or Clint, or, Richard, or whoever you are, or whoever you were told you were, right? Who were you before they told you that? That's always a good question to consider, right? Because that's what the Buddha was pointing at, that there are conditions, and the sense of self is one of the things that gets conditioned, and it's totally normal and part of being human and fine part of being human. It's just not the end of the story about what's actually sitting here. And so you want to look at the self that's sitting here and what's not self, or what's not coming out of the habit or the condition or the psychology or the history of what's sitting here, and what comes that might be beyond self or not self. So this question, let's see if I can find that question again, about fixing the world and how to balance, because the balance between Buddhism and activism, that is a great question, because and again, this might be my total delusion, but I don't find any conflict between Buddhism and activism. The Buddha was an activist, total activist. I mean, look at what his activism has done, right? We're here because of the Buddha. Some guy 2,600 years ago who did something that all the big teachers of his time said, oh no, you can't do that. You'll never find that kind of freedom. Here, let me teach you what I know. And he went and studied, and they loved him. He was a good practitioner. And they said, oh, stay with me, teach what I taught you, because he was deep. But he said, no, it's not bringing the freedom that I feel or I sense or I intuit is possible. And they said, well, no, that freedom's not available. And he said, no, I'm going to keep looking for that. And he did, and he found it. And here we are as part of his act. Who asked the activism question. That was part of his activism. Not only was he an activist before he was enlightened, he was an activist after he was enlightened. He ran a big, and you'll excuse my language, fucking corporation after that. I mean, serious, man. If you read, you see all these people become disciples, and he's the boss. He's the CEO of Buddhism, right? And he has to deal with all kinds of people, kings and queens and politicians and warriors and armies and people going to war. And there's great stories about him being an activist with people going to war, and sometimes he stops the war. It's beautiful. And by his conversation, all he does is talk to people or sit with them or interact, and shit happens. But also, sometimes he interacts and he talks, and the war happens anyways. And that's a really important part of Buddhist teaching. That he talks about it. He said, I'm not in control. So he knows something about his power and the limits of power, right? And that's very important piece that I think can really help us if we're involved in activism, to know and to not know, both. To know what's possible and to also know we don't know what's really can happen or not. And then there's a different kind of freedom in our engagement of activism, that it's coming from the heart and what we care about. And we also have a bigger picture, which is really what the Buddha had, of the nature of reality and what it means to be a human being and and the stages of human maturation. So and we're not as mature as possible. This is me, not the Buddha, but we're all still growing up, and especially culturally, and cultures and societies and governments and politics. I mean, it's a slow deal, as far as I can tell. But it's also a beautiful part of what it means to be a human being, to be part of that maturation, even if it's slow. And so I want to wish you all a happy Father's Day. And I mean this quite sincerely. I realized yesterday, it's Father's Day, and maybe I should talk about being a father or fathering or all that stuff. And I thought about it, and so I started to think about the levels of what it means to be a father. And, there's biological fathering, which, I'm sure some of you are, many of you maybe. And that's part of the relative truth of reality. Now I'm talking about the two truths, which was part of my talk before. And that's a beautiful part of reality. And we've all been fathered, right? Anybody here not been fathered? And I just mean biologically. I'm starting there, okay? Right? That's just part of that's part of the reality that's sitting right here, is we've all been fathered. And then there's, however father was, if you had a father, knew your father was good, father was bad, there's all kinds of pluses and minuses that might be part of the fathering archetype on that level of reality. And then there's another level, so there's the relative level of reality, and then there's the ultimate level of reality. This is the two truths in Buddhism. And the ultimate level of reality is about the fathering of reality, which we are all part of, or the fathering of humanity, which we are all part of. It doesn't matter whether you have kids or not, meaning who you are and your interactions with other human beings, and we could say even younger and of any stage, we're fathering one another in a certain sense. In addition to, of course, we're fathering ourselves. And that's a beautiful understanding of what practice is. And the other way I could say it is we're parenting ourselves, or we're fathering and mothering is really what I would say ourselves, both. And that's a beautiful part of the nature of reality, that archetypal energy to care for and guide and support and let go of self and others. And okay, I've got a little more time. Good. So I just wanted to get a little farther, because it's Father's Day, and we're, it's part of our reality, relative and ultimate also. And it's beautiful to see. I mean, I'm definitely getting old. I should really be honest. I'm old. And so part of my oldness is a lot of people are younger than me now. It's like, wow, these people are young. And I can see, they're adults, but they look like kids to me. They're 20 or 30 or something. Excuse me if I offend anybody who's 20 or 30, but it's just true. But I see that there's something really great about interacting with them. Not always, but sometimes. meaning, first of all, they're teaching me something about a reality is still new, and there's more to learn for all of us. And also, I see a little bit of my, having been around for 65 years now, that can be helpful to people sometimes. And that's a beautiful thing to see, just in the normal whatever, even if it's, I'm a Buddhist teacher, so that's one thing, but even, I'm a bike rider, so like I was talking with somebody, and I can point at stuff, just because I've ridden a bunch, and I've had bad rides sometimes, so I can say, watch it, really, here's my big parenting on the bike, wear your helmet, bro. Let me assure you that's a good thing to do. I know about that. Saved my life, really. So a little about activism, and that it's part of Buddhism and it's part of our practice, because that's part of the wisdom of waking up. It's not just for us, it's for everybody. And that happens on levels of reality I can't even describe, and it also happens on normal, relative levels of reality. And all of this comes out of this other question that was brought up about staying with what is. Like even now, and here's the word I love. I don't know that the Buddha used this, but I believe he would have if he was around today. Be intimate with what is. Be intimate with your body. Be intimate with your heart. Be intimate with your mind. And by intimate, again, I'm pointing at the experiential reality, not just the words that I'm saying, not just the concept mind or body or heart, but the actual living phenomena, which is your heart. What is that? Or how do you know it? And then what is that aspect of consciousness that we call the heart when we're aware, my heart's here and I'm hurt, or I'm loving, or I'm whatever it might be. Or the mind. It's the same. It's a component of consciousness we can start to be aware of experientially, not just conceptually. Like here, you can even play, and playing becomes really good with this. Like, feel your mind now. Don't just think about your mind. Feel your mind. And it's a different level of reality I'm pointing at when I say, feel your mind. It's an experience of, for lack of a better word, mindness, right? Which they call it mindfulness. The fullness of what's here. The mind is not just an idea, not just a concept, not just a belief. It's actually part of the phenomena of reality. And we can start to know it more intimately. And that's an adventure, a beautiful adventure in practice, to know the heart, to know the mind, to know the body, to know reality more intimately, closer. And here's the beauty in my teaching. I don't usually say that. Here's the beauty in what I'm saying. Reality is sitting right here. Right here. You don't have to go somewhere, right? It's sitting right here. This is reality, right? And that's wild as far as I'm concerned. That's a wild part of reality is, it's not out there. It's not, there's reality. Oh no, this is real. What's speaking is reality. What's not even sure of what it's going to say is reality. And what's wondering about what's being said, that's reality. Or not liking what's being said, that's fine. That's all reality. Starting to know reality. Now, the other thing I've been saying lately that I like, very Zen-like, is reality reveals reality. Thank you for indulging me with that. And so this playing with practice is, I love that. I love that word. Again, tell me again who I forget. Thank you. Yeah, that's just such a great word, because at least when I came to practice, you're going to practice, you're going to work really hard at practicing. And believe me, and I know the value of that, and I've worked hard. Believe me, I sat lots of retreats. I was really seeing, how long can you sit without moving, no matter how much pain there is and all this. I was young, it's good. If you're young and macho a little bit, okay, go for it. But the working is not so helpful long-term in practice. It's good to know how to work hard. It's good to know how to play. It's good to know how to relax with practice, or to experiment, or to explore, or to discover practice ongoing, because it's always new. And that's why the now moment is so wild, because it's really true. There is no other moment but now. Everything I said before is gone. I mean, it was fantastic talk today, but it's gone. Right? Reality is just this. And that's juicy. That's a good place to play. Because really, it's the only place to play, as far as I can tell. And so the last thing I just want to say a little bit about is identity. And I said a little bit, it's so beautiful, identity. I love identity. And I said, maybe I don't have to say much, because I said some things about self and not self, and that's really what's being pointed at, which is our attachment to the habit of self, to our identity, right? Like if I ask you, what's your identity? Eugene, man, Buddhist, 65, these are all definitions of identity. But what about what's living and sitting here? That's not a concept. What about the aliveness of what's listening to me in your seat? That's not a concept. What's that? Non-identity. And so the teachings point over and over again at identity and relaxing our attachment, and relaxing our identification with identity, which doesn't mean you have to get rid of it or throw it away or feel bad about it or anything. It just means there's more to discover about who and what we are. And again, I'll go back to what I said about who and what reality is, because reality is sitting right here. And that's a great adventure in practice, and a beautiful, the teacher I've been influenced by lately is Eugene, a Burmese fellow, monastic, who I like a lot because he's very much into relaxation and to not having a fixed goal, but to discovering practice as we go, moment by moment by moment. And even being curious about what the hell is a moment? I'm adding in here. I've got to be honest. Uteshaniya might not say that. He wouldn't say what the hell is a moment. But really, what is it to be alive here for this brief time, which is so unspeakable about what it is. Really, I don't have any other words for what it is, except let's keep discovering what it is instead of knowing what it is, and then see what happens to our relationship to these moments of breathing, walking, lying down, standing, interacting, relating, being an activist, loving, whatever it is, whatever your life is, stay awake moment by moment by moment, and let's see what we discover. So,
well, we still do have some time if anybody
great, yeah.
would like to ask a question.
Questions, comments, disagreements, totally all good. There we go.
Well, I just wanted to expound a little bit more on engaged Buddhism. I was just at that topic myself because I'm very interested in that. Could you talk about taking Buddhism and actually, I know a lot of emphasis on Buddhism is doing the work inside yourself, and that's going to make the world a better place. But there are also ways we can actually go out and
sure
work, but do that with a Buddhist perspective.
Sure.
I wonder if you could talk some more about that.
Well, again, from my view, if you do your practice, you will take a Buddhist perspective, because that's what is part of allowing you to go out in a real way and be a real person relating to the real world, which is messed up. And you want to pay attention. So if you want to do it as Buddhist practice also, you'll bring in the fundamentals of what one learns about right understanding, right intention becomes really important here. And then the kind of presence you bring, which has to do with mindfulness, samadhi, the absorption into reality, and the kind of right effort one makes, and then also the kind of way you live your life, even when you're not doing the activism, goes into the activism, right? So, and you're hearing, I'm giving the Eightfold Path, right? About, because those teachings, what the Buddha pointed at and said, oh, this is important to practice and to start to learn and be aware of, oh, how do you understand reality or a moment or whatever is happening? And then what's your intention before you act? Because your intention becomes really important, no matter what you're doing. Doesn't matter. But of course, with activism, intention becomes key. Because our intention could be, I want to save the world, but I hate the way these people are idiots, and da-da-da. And so we're bringing that into our intention. And so if we're not aware of our aversion or reaction to somebody, it can influence our action. So that's a little bit how I think about it.
I really appreciate your distinction between the difference of no self versus not self.
Yeah.
Because I often get frustrated when people talk like there is a relative self. If I hurt my leg, I don't say, would you take this, aggregate to the hospital? To the hospital. And,
you could, right.
I think of Epstein's work, you have to become somebody before you become nobody. and it's relative, but it does exist.
And, but here's the important thing about the two truths. Relative and ultimate reality are both equally true. Right? The ultimate is not, oh, that's the good one, and no, they're equally true. And because they both live, and now this is Eugene's view, there's really only one truth. And that one truth contains both relative and ultimate truth. And they're both there together. And that's beautiful, really. So I'm glad and I'm happy because I'm so tired of the misunderstanding about this no self deal. And then this, idea, oh yeah, take this, bag of bones to the hospital instead of get me to the fucking hospital. Let's be real. When it's needed like that.
Yeah, right, and there's a not personal part.
Yeah, that's
not
right.
Personal, not personal.
Yeah. And what's beautiful about the two truths and this self, not self, is that you start to see, the ultimate can live even in the personal. Or the impersonal can live even in the personal. And it keeps getting wilder, at least in my view. And, we'll see what I think in another 100 or 200 years. Please.
Some thoughts about equanimity? I hear about it all the time.
Equanimity. I don't have any, so I don't talk about it. No, it's a beautiful understanding. But again, it's the understanding that takes everything in. It doesn't push anything away. Because it's all here anyways, whether we like it or not. And then equanimity, to be equanimous or balanced in a certain way. For me, the way I have talked about, especially on retreat, because people will say, I was equanimous and then all this stuff happened. And I'm like, I'm an equanimous and I'm getting turned on my head. And I can be with the being turned on my headness. And that's equanimity. Not, it's all flat and good and perfect and there's no ripples or no, everything can be here. And I can be, it doesn't mean I like it, but also there's something that knows it's all fine. And that's the weirdest thing, because it is all fine. And, and I had a serious accident, and I have to say that was one of the real surprises. Not for me, because I wasn't even there enough to be surprised, but as people talked to me, especially in the hospital the first 4 or 5 weeks after the accident, was how the doctors kept saying, you're going to be fine. You're going to be better. I had a bad broken body, broken mind, really, broken mind, serious. But there was some kind of equanimity there. I didn't believe the doctors at all. I didn't even care about that. All I was interested in, and it wasn't even me being interested, it wasn't enough me, was, just being right where I was. Because that's where I was. I didn't have any, and it was so easy, and this is paradoxical, because believe me, I hated the hospital. I was a horrible hospital patient. Like my wife said, you were just the mute. The doctors hated you. You just yelled at them, because I can be like that. But there was some part of me that was actually right where I was. And that's the key for all of us that I keep seeing. Because that's where we can find freedom, choice, and the potential for anything to happen. Okay, thank you. Let's stop there. I think that's a good place.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
So you put the emphasis on the you in Gene, right? Eugene.
Well, it depends. I grew up in Detroit. I'm trying to think. How did people say it? Eugene or Eugene? No, I got Eugene.
Eugene.
Yeah.
Because I introduced you as Eugene, but I heard you say Eugene.
It's okay. Either way, I'll answer to either. I've learned that much.
Thank you. So next week we're going to have an open discussion. This is when we break down into small groups. There's a suggested topic related to the Dharma, and we just have a chance to get to know one another better.
Great.
And I believe today's host is Kenny, right?
Yeah.
So Kenny will be coming around with the Dana Bowl. We ask that you contribute as generously as you're able. Suggested donation is $10. And announcements.
We would say there's an announcement many times, I guess, but this is in relation to what Eugene talked about. We do have the Locker Street Youth Center dinners there once a month. There's a homeless shelter for young people, and the center takes good care of them, and they do a great job. But we provide like a special dinner that they really love and look forward to. And it's a great opportunity to engage Buddhism, and also on the theme of Father's Day, it's a great opportunity for older men like ourselves, or myself, to work with young people. And I don't have much of an opportunity to do that. And I know they have a lot of times I've had some people talk, young people talk about their bad experiences with older men. And it's a nice opportunity for them to have a positive experience too. So if you're interested in participating in that, we normally do it on the third Saturday of the month. This month is different, but normally we do. Please contact me outside and I'll include you on the volunteer list. I also want to say we're at a kind of a point here where we're wondering whether to continue or not, whether there's enough enthusiasm to continue after 20-some years of this. So I'll be interested to see if there's a role for that. You can talk to me about that too.
Yes, Carl.
Yeah. I just wanted to announce that on Mondays, there's another LGBTQI sitting group that meets at the Gay Center after work at 5:30. It's an hour total, half hour of sitting meditation, and then half hour of Dharma talk. It's very similar to GBF. It's been going on for about 12 years. And it's a more intimate group than this. It's small, 10 to 20 people show up, but you're all welcome, and many of us from here also attend there, and it's a very diverse group, age, sexual orientation, and so 5:30 at the Gay Center on Market Street in Octavia every Monday. The center's open if you're interested in having another little sangha and another sit.
So I'm your host for today. This is my first time hosting, so be gentle. I brought some teas and refreshments, and the teas I brew it myself, and it's all caffeine free. And I have some cookies and sweets, so enjoy. And I'll be coming around with the Dana bowl. So if you are having tea, wash the cups after that, and if you want to get on the mailing list, there's a sign up sheet right outside. And last thing will be some people will get around 12:30 to go out for lunch. So if you're interested, please meet them at the front door at 12:30.
Are the sweets homemade?
Part of it is homemade.
I'll meet you there.
Looks good.
Any other announcements? Okay, I'll take this opportunity to announce that our annual fall retreat is happening the third weekend in September. It's the 19th through the 21st at Vajrapani Institute in the Santa Cruz Mountains. David Lewis will once again be joining us this year, and our topic will be karma. And registration is opening right after July 4th. So the flyer will both be on the website, and also there'll be flyers here after that. Check it out. Thank you. All right, let's gather in a circle for our dedication of merit. power and truth of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is without sorrow. And may all live in equanimity, without too much attachment or too much aversion, believing in the equality of all.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.